Hello, this is Daniel Mart back again. For those who don't know me, I am an actor and filmmaker based out of Miami, Florida. And every week, every Thursday, I do a discussion topic. And right now, since we're currently in October, we're basically in spooky season. I thought maybe it'd be kind of cool for this whole month to basically do some list. This is something that I used to do very early on my channel, where I basically did, top 10 list, top 15, top 20, whatever list about my favorite, least favorite. And because it's October, because it's basically spooky season, and because I'm a huge fan of The Walking Dead, even though I'm currently wearing a Ghostbusters shirt. I used to have a Walking Dead shirt, not anymore, besides the point. But since we're basically in October, I thought, what if we did a top 10 favorite Walking Dead episodes? Thing is, I couldn't decide between just 10, so we ended up doing the list until 20. So yeah, that's what we have here. Top 20 The Walking Dead episodes. Let's get started. So number 20, we have What's Been Lost, episode 20 of the 11th season. Season 11 as a whole, because it's so recent, it's very hard for a lot of these episodes to really be high up on the list. You'll see as the list goes on. I think right now, with these couple episodes, with this one and the next one we're going to be talking about, because they're both from season 11, it's right when the group essentially is starting to get really divided because of what the Commonwealth is, because of what the Commonwealth is doing. In this episode, you have the Commonwealth, who at the very tail end of the episode essentially kidnaps the bulk of everybody from Alexandria, Hilltop, the Kingdom, the joint communities. So you have that going on, and what's about to happen in the next couple episodes in regards to that. But also we have what's going on with Eugene and the trial. The trial is about to begin. And you have Yumiko, who is basically put into this very difficult situation because she knows her friends are being threatened, and she's being forced by Pamela to defend the Commonwealth against Eugene's crimes against the Commonwealth, which is, for those who don't know, he supposedly killed Sebastian, who is Pamela's son. If you guys don't know the show, this won't make any sense to you, but just, politics within The Walking Dead, like literal politics within The Walking Dead. It's very interesting, and this is something that was kind of explored in the comics. I do read the comics as well, but I feel the way they expanded it here in the TV series was just so much better. At number 19, we have Faith, which is episode 22 of the 11th season, and this is basically the trial of Eugene, literally 2 episodes later. We also do have some stuff going on in Alexandria, or Outpost 22 as it's currently called at this point in the series. And I mean, honestly, both storylines, because you have, in one end, you have the trial of Eugene's trial, this farcical trial, because again, he's been accused of killing Sebastian Milton, Pamela's son, even though it's Lance's fault that Sebastian is dead, which, by the way, he died in What's Been Lost in the previous episode I just talked about, so I forgot to mention that. But now he's being put onto trial, even though Lance is the one who caused Sebastian's death, and he committed crimes against the Commonwealth. And honestly, Eugene's speech at the end, where he's like, the only reason I got this far is because of my friends, it's surprisingly touching in a weird way, because Eugene, at least for me up until this point, it's not that he has grown as a character, and I do enjoy him, but I think that speech he gave at the end of his trial really sealed the deal for me as possibly top 10 favorite characters. I mean, there's so many characters here that's kind of hard to say top 10, but if not top 10, definitely top 15 for sure. So yeah, and then on the flip side, in Outpost 22 in Alexandria, you essentially have the continuation of Negan and Ezekiel working together. And Ezekiel straight up hates Negan because of what he did during All Out War, during the Savior's War. And this is really the first time, this episode and the last episode, which I think was actually called Outpost 22, they're forced to work together because they're basically imprisoned in Alexandria, as ironic as it is, especially with Negan, because he's already been imprisoned for 10 years at Alexandria. But just having them work together, and Negan wanting to sacrifice himself for the greater good at the end, and almost losing Annie, who is his wife at the moment, it just brings up a lot of emotions. And then Ezekiel trying to save him too, and he's like, I don't even know why I'm doing this, but I know I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. And then him telling him, you're gonna live for something. If you're gonna live for something, actually live for something. Don't die and have that be your legacy. And I think having those two characters who we've never seen them interact, but knowing how much Ezekiel hates Negan, and the fact that he even told him that, hey, if you're gonna live for something, just great stuff. Next up, season 7 premiere, The Day Will Come When You Won't Be. And I feel it's kind of blasphemous to have this one this low. But I mean, look, this episode is known as the episode where Glenn dies. Abraham dies too. I mean, everyone, that's the first thing. Everybody forgets Abraham dies in this episode, but like, because it's foreshadowed by Glenn's death. But yeah, Abraham also dies, and he has one of the best last lines any character ever has. You know, suck my nuts, straight to Negan. I mean, yeah, if anybody was gonna stand up to Negan at that point, it would have been Abraham, straight up. And then Glenn. I mean, that's the thing. You can't really talk about this episode without saying Glenn and Abraham's death. Like, it's unavoidable. And also the controversy that just spawned from it afterwards, like, oh, is Walking Dead too violent? I mean, here's the thing. And I remember when this came out, Jeremy Jahns, when he reviewed the episode, said it best, where it's like, it's not that fucked up shit hasn't happened before in The Walking Dead. It's just that fucked up shit happened to a character we love in The Walking Dead, and that's why people are so up in arms about it. And honestly, yeah. But, you know, just the two deaths aside, just also the fact you have Negan making Rick his bitch throughout the whole fucking episode, and then him almost having to cut Carl's arm, and even Carl's like, you know what, just do it. If it's for the greater good, just do it. And then just having Rick break down at that moment, it's just like, goddamn. And honestly, the reason I have this one so low is two parts. It has to do with the fact that I don't necessarily enjoy this episode as much as I think other people do, especially compared to some of the other episodes. I mean, I have 17 other episodes ahead of this, so clearly. But I also think that just the controversy behind this episode with how people are talking about it, oh, how it's so violent, and to a certain degree, the Glenn death. And it's not because I don't like the Glenn death because, oh, Glenn died, and I like the character. It's not because of that, but it's because of what happened in season 6 with the fake out dumpster death, where, you know, there's always been a discussion, oh, should he have died at that point? And I kind of do believe to a certain degree that he should have died during the dumpster death thing, all the way back in season 6. Right, it was around JSS, somewhere around there. Like I said before, there's just 17 more episodes I like more than this one. But I do recognize how probably blasphemous it is to have this episode so low on the list. Arguably, I'll see the reaction afterwards. Next up, we have Season 5, Episode 3, Four Walls and a Roof. This is one of those episodes where I basically say that this episode is known for one scene. And the one scene it's known for is the extermination of the termites, the cannibals. This is one of those episodes where, again, it's known by that one integral, iconic scene where Rick and the group kill all the termites. And that's it. And then Maggie just says that she responds to Gabriel, who says, he said, like, this is the Lord's house, something like that, and she just goes, no, this is just four walls and a roof. And that's just like, yeah, and you have to remember, they just escaped Terminus not 2 episodes ago. You know, they know these people are cannibals, and they've been split up even before this because of the prison. So, you know, they're trying to get back together, and you also have this whole thing with Eugene, who, at this point, he's a scientist who needs to get up to DC, so there is some elements of hope at this point in the story. But you also know there's these cannibals, and they just literally amputated Bob and ate a part of him too. There is also that part. This is also the episode that Bob dies, sadly. It's a very dark episode at the end of the day, because I mean, you have cannibalism, you have, I will say, like, that one line, that response she has is kind of haunting. It's just four walls and a roof, to the point that that's the name of the episode, and that's all I have to say. It's just four walls and a roof. So from one dark episode to the next, we have The Grove, Season 4, Episode 14. Look at the flowers, Lizzie. Look at the flowers. Again, another episode that's known for one iconic scene in the series where Carol has to shoot Lizzie after she killed her sister Mika and was about to kill Judith, a baby Judith. And, I mean, the reason I have this one above Four Walls and a Roof is just because, for me, this episode is just so much more memorable. Because, yes, we do have that iconic scene, but there's everything that leads up to it even before that. You have the whole tension between Carol and Tyrese, unknown to Tyrese, technically speaking, because he doesn't know that Carol killed Karen and David, and Karen was Tyrese's girlfriend at the time, before the whole prison collapse. Because there's an infection going on in the prison. There's like flu. Karen was one of the first people who was affected. Carol killed Karen, and again, Karen is Tyrese's girlfriend at the time. And Carol at this point has felt very guilty. I mean, that she was exiled by Rick because of that. And she, of course, she knows that Tyrese and Karen were a thing. And then So she has that guilt on top of the fact that now she has to deal with Lizzie, Mika, and Judith. And Lizzie is off her fucking rockers because she thinks that walkers are people, that they can be saved, and doesn't want to kill walkers. And then on the flip side, you have Mika, who doesn't want to kill people because she still sees the good in people, even in the most evilest of people, which is actually a conversation they have, which it's just such a dark episode too, because these are topics you're discussing with children. Lizzie is like 14, I think, in the show, and Mika is like 12, 10 to 12, something like that. So again, you're having this discussions with preteens and teenagers who have grown up in the apocalypse for the past 2 to 3 years. They lost their parents due to the apocalypse, so they've been fucked up and raised. And that's always been a question, like, how is a kid raised in this apocalypse, in this post-apocalyptic wasteland? How do they develop? And this took one of the darkest turns with that concept. And at the end, just look at the flowers, Lizzie. Look at the flowers. Next up, we have Season 8, Episode 13, Do Not Send Us Astray. Season 8, in general, is arguably the worst season of The Walking Dead, if we're talking about just the main show. If we're talking about the spin-offs. Let's go with that. But Season 8 is generally considered the worst season of The Walking Dead because of just the all-out war arc. It was extended between Seasons 7 and 8, and a lot of people just didn't like it, including myself. I thought after a while it just kind of dragged on. That being said, Season 8 still has some bangers. Do Not Send Us Astray is one of those bangers. And that is because that is the Battle of Hilltop, or the Battle at Hilltop, against the Saviors. And that's basically when the Saviors decided to coat their weapons in walker guts, walker blood, and trying to infect the militia. And they actually succeed. Because at first you think they know that the militia wins. Oh, they killed the Saviors who were there. They killed all the attackers. And the ones who didn't die just ran away. Great. And then later that night, anybody who was infected by the walker blood, walker splatter that was given to them by the Saviors, dies. Tobin, I think, was the biggest casualty out there. You also have Bruce, who was also a relatively minor character, but he was known enough. He was the guy in the bed who was like, please don't let me turn. You know, you had people who we knew at this point turn and died because of the Saviors, because of their tactics. Now, there has been some controversy because, like, why do they get infected? But we've seen this in the past. And my logic because of that is that the infection they got was because the blood they consumed, so to speak, went deeper into their body, as opposed to a great example that a lot of people like to bring up is when Sasha accidentally slashed Abraham when she was killing walkers. And that's because that was just like a very minor surface level cut. Whereas the stuff that Tobin got, I mean, he was stabbed in like somewhere in the abdominal region with walker guts, so that makes more sense. So that's why. But I mean, just the Battle of Hilltop in general, just because this is also in the comics, and this was translated faithfully enough from comics to screen, but it just looks so much grander, so much more amazing in the comics, and I really enjoyed it because of that. Next up, Season 3, Episode 4, Killer Within, aka Laurie's death episode, and T-Dog's death episode, and Judith's birth episode. So this is at a point where we're starting to realize that other survivors could also be the enemy. Now, we've seen this in the past, especially with Season 2 and Shane, which I'll get to in a minute. And in Season 1, we kind of saw that, but now Season 3 is when that really goes into effect. And yes, we do have the governor, who's maybe the most obvious example of the living could be more dangerous than the dead. But see, here's the thing. At this point, they don't know anything about the governor. They just have to deal with the prisoners. Axel, Big Tiny, Tomas, Oscar, and Andrew. Tomas was already killed off. Oscar and Axel were good. Big Tiny was killed off. And you just have Andrew, who they thought was taken care of and killed off. Guess not. Because he comes back and he becomes the killer within. And, I mean, honestly, if not for Andrew's actions, Laurie probably would still be alive. At least up until that point, she probably would have given birth normally enough, because she would have had Herschel there to help her. T-Dog shit wouldn't have died. But no, because of Andrew, and he survived, so he caused Laurie and T-Dog's death. And honestly, Andrew was a fun character for the 2 or 3 episodes that he was in. 2 episodes. 2, 3, I mean, 2 episodes. He appeared at the tail end of Seed, like at the very the last 10 seconds of Seed. So take that for what you will. He was just a fun character. And fun fact, I actually did interview him very early on my old YouTube channel. I actually did interview the actor who portrays him, Marquise Moore. So if you guys ever want to check that out. But yeah, I mean, overall, this episode was just great. And honestly, having that memory of me interviewing Marquise Moore and me asking him questions about it just made it a little bit better. Next up, another episode that I think could be blasphemous because of how low it is, but that is Too Far Gone, Season 4, Episode 8, and the battle and downfall of the prison. Similar to Four Walls and a Roof, I would say that this is one of those episodes where it's so highly defined by like a scene, so to speak, in the episode. Or I guess in this case, it's not really a scene so much more as just the entire battle at the prison. Because for me, everything before the battle of the prison, like, it's fun. I like it, and I understand why it's going on. But I kind of feel like it drags just a little bit. And part of it does have to do with, like, I kind of just want to get to this battle, which is, like, the last 10 minutes of the episode. But, like, those 10 minutes just are so... I don't know if cathartic is the right word for it. But, you know, it's just... This is one of those things that this is a culmination of the whole Governor arc, which they extended. And some people were annoyed at the time, or some people are still annoyed in fact, that the Governor arc was extended past Season 3. Granted, good thing they didn't extend it to, like, the end of Season 4, because then we would have been in big trouble by that point. So I think at the moment they ended it was great, having it be the mid-season finale for Season 4. But just in general, like, the Governor dying, especially with what we've seen him do in the past, him having just arguably one of the best arcs in the series, and him having this death was iconic, I guess. I don't know, that's the first word that pops up in my head, but iconic. But even then, you have Daryl blowing up a goddamn tank. I mean, need I say more? But you also have Lizzie and Miko, who are still alive at this point. They saved Tyrese by killing 2 people, which gets talked about in the Grove. And then you also have these mashups that right now we don't necessarily know what they could become, but we see what happens in the future episodes, such as Maggie, Bob, and Sasha being off in one group, Daryl and Beth being off by themselves, Carl and Rick, of course, Michonne going off by her own, Glenn at this point being off on his own. He later finds Tara and then, you know, joins Abraham, Eugene, and Rosita, and, you know, that chaos ensues afterwards. But at this point, also Glenn is sick at this point. Like, he is literally sick. He is just recovering from the infection. By the way, now that I think about it, so there's just it's a culmination of a storyline with enough tidbits of possible storylines that we're about to see, and because of that, I really like it. And yeah, again, the reason it's this slow is because honestly, like, the first half of the episode, I kind of could care less about, but the second half, some of the best stuff The Walking Dead's ever done. Period. Next up, we have 18 Miles Out, Season 2, Episode 10. Just how I was talking with Killer Within, with how sometimes people are the greater enemy than the actual undead. Well, we definitely see that here. And it's not just people. It's your own people in this case, because you have Rick and Shane literally trying to kill each other, essentially, on what to do with Randall. And that's on top of all the other stuff that they know about each other by this point, because by this point, Rick knows that Shane had sex with his wife, Lori. Granted, he knows, or he gives him the benefit of the doubt, saying that, hey, I knew you guys probably thought I was dead. I'll give you that pass. But anything after that, know your boundaries. And Shane even considering, I mean, he's considered killing Rick in the past, but this is him actually doing it, or attempting to do it, up until Better Angels, which is a whole different thing. Him actively going for it, and to a certain degree, I would say having a reason to, in a sense. I mean, because they're fighting because of Randall, essentially, and who's this fucking shit kid who literally tried to kill Rick. And why he's still alive, nobody knows why, aside from the fact that Dale says, like, our life is precious. Bullshit. Very Morgan-like. Honestly, that fight is just one of the best fights in The Walking Dead, like, physical fights, brawls, and there's been a lot of fights, but that one also just because unlike other fights in The Walking Dead, where it's just cool to have these 2 characters fight, you have these 2 characters who actually have a history with each other, and actually there's more higher emotional stakes to it, if that makes sense. And then you have this fucking shit Randall trying to escape, which is kind of funny. Honestly, Randall's kind of, I don't know if underrated is a good word to describe it, but he's a character that I think I personally like a lot, but a lot of people are just kind of like, yeah, neutral towards him. But I personally like him for what he did within the context of the show. I really did like that. But yeah, that's 18 Miles Out. Now, on to the next episode. And the next episode is Rest in Peace, the series finale, season 11, episode 24. And this one just barely makes into the top 10. It is number 11. Again, this is one where I actually struggled placing this one because here's the problem with this episode in general, which to a certain extent is just a problem with the Walking Dead universe, I guess, as a whole, and that is the fact that it's not really a proper ending. It sets up a lot of stuff for what was supposed to happen, I suppose, in Dead City, and a lot of stuff that's currently happening in the Daryl Dixon series, as well as The Ones Who Live, which is the Rick and Michonne series that's going to come next year, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the biggest downside of this. It's not really a proper series finale. It's a finale, but it's not a series finale. There's a lot of loose ends. That's because they're trying to lead that stuff into the spin-offs to varying degrees of success. If this was just a season finale, for example, this would be like arguably one of the best season finales ever. I mean, the invasion of the Commonwealth, Pamela getting her comeuppance, we are not the Walking Dead, that whole speech given by Daryl, which I remember a lot of people were like, oh, who's going to say that? Is it going to be Mercer? Is it going to be Judith? A lot of people thought King Ezekiel because, he's the most likely one to give a speech, but no, it turns out to be Daryl. And honestly, that to a certain degree, that kind of fits because of the main character syndrome, so to speak, but like, he's also the one who's probably seen the corruption of the Commonwealth the most, arguably out of any character there. I mean, Eugene will probably give him a run for his money, but he's also not going to be doing a speech. Then again, Daryl's not one for speeches, so take that for what you will. It's a combination of the whole Commonwealth arc, but aside from that, it's also the combination of some of the characters' personal arcs, most notably Gabriel's when he opens up the gates to let people into the estates. Which is opposed to what he did initially in the Apocalypse, which is he locked everybody away from his church. And I remember a lot of people really, really loved that, including myself. I mean, again, the main problem with this is it's the fact that it's not a proper series finale. It feels more like a season finale because they have to set up a lot more for the upcoming spin-offs. And I think that's really its biggest downside. And next up, cracking the top 10, we have Some Guy, Season 8, Episode 4. I feel like this is maybe a rather random episode to have on this list. It's an episode that I don't hear many people talk about. Part of it has to do with the fact that it's Season 8. And again, Season 8 is just like the most unpopular. It's the worst season within the TV series. I don't know, something about this episode, I've always liked it, and I think it has to do with the fact that Ezekiel, at this point, has been a character that we've seen him be all regal and majesty-like. And yes, we've seen him struggle. Benjamin's death being a prime example of that. But we've never seen him be beaten down. He's always been positive or been able to give off an air of positivity even when he's not positive. But this is just a culmination of him just being beaten down time and time again. And you having this fucking shit savior, Gunther, who, by the way, the actor for that one, fucking great performance there. Like, one of the single best performances for a, like, minor supporting role that only appears for one episode ever in The Walking Dead. Throughout this whole episode, you just continuously see Ezekiel being broken down time and time again, because we start off the episode with the whole extermination of the Kingdom guards, the Kingdom soldiers, with the exception of Jerry, Carol, and Alvaro, who gets killed off because of Gunther shortly thereafter. And then at the very end, he loses Shiva, his tiger. And he has, it's not really a speech, it's just him yelling, I'm just some guy, I'm just some guy. You have Jerry, who keeps telling him, no, you're still my king. And he keeps yelling, no, I'm just some guy. And it's not necessarily a character-focused episode, but the scenes with Ezekiel, I think, are just some of the best stuff. And I think everything that we see from Ezekiel, character development-wise, from here on out, is all thanks to this episode. And honestly, I would say a lot of the reason why people love Ezekiel as a character has to do with this episode, because he does recognize at the end of the day he can think he's a king, he can think he's royalty, he does come from this theatrical background, but at the end of the day he is just some guy who's just survive in the apocalypse. And for number 9, on to another rather random episode, we have Vatos, Season 1, Episode 4. And this is an episode that, me personally, I've always just liked it. I mean, clearly, it's number 9. And this is an episode I don't really, more so than some guy, I never hear anybody talk about Vatos, like, at all. At all. At most, they'll talk about it in the sense because of what happens at the very end, which is the Walker invasion on the camp. At the very end, where Amy dies, Jim gets bitten, Ed dies, the rest of the camp dies. But just this episode as a whole, it's one that I've always liked because this is the first inclination that, oh, this world is actually going to expand. It's actually going to grow on out past our core group of survivors. And you have that with the Vatos gang. And initially, they're shown as being antagonists, essentially. But it turns out they're actually good people who just were trying to defend themselves because they're living inside the city, inside a nursery, an old people's nursery, a senior citizen home, and they have to try to find a way to survive regardless. And even their motives are rather sympathetic at the end of the day. They're trying to survive. They're trying to take care of the old people, and even Rick sees that, even though he was about to kill everybody there. Him, T-Dog, Daryl were about to kill everybody there to get Glenn back because they kidnapped Glenn. They each saw each other's humanity, and they recognized that, and they split the guns in half. The guns that they were gonna come in to get from Atlanta, they split the guns with the Vatos group. And Daryl's like, yeah, are those guns given away? Those guns really worth it? But Rick's like, who cares? Who cares? Let them defend themselves. It is what it is. The one thing I don't like, and it's not even necessarily about this episode, it's just like something that happened after this episode that I thought was kind of dumb, and that is that Robert Kirkman confirmed that, oh, this whole group was wiped out. And I always thought that was kind of dumb. Now, there is some precedent to it, though, because originally the Season 2 premiere was going to show how the Vatos, the compound, fell. There's deleted scenes about it as well. So there is some precedent to it, but, like, I personally just never liked... I'm like, if it's a deleted scene, so be it, whatever, it is what it is. But just the way that Robert Kirkman confirmed it, I just never really liked it, per se. I mean, he also did that with the Grady Memorial people, which that one I really, for some reason, really left a bad taste in my mouth. But a lot of people really didn't give a shit. Vatos, really great episode. On to the next. Pretty Much Dead Already, Season 2, Episode 7. Again, one of those episodes that's known for an iconic scene, but I think more so than Four Walls and a Roof. This is one of the more iconic scenes in the Walking Dead series, especially for the early seasons. And I'm talking about Sophia coming out of the barn as a zombie and Rick putting her down. And like, I mean, we've seen zombie children. I mean, literally the first zombie period we saw and that was killed was a child, a zombie at the gas station. And by the way, that child is actually called Summer. Like, that's the character's name apparently. So just an FYI. But we've seen zombie children. Clearly, again, that was the first episode, but like to have it be Sophia, someone we've seen since Season 1, Carol's daughter, who's been missing since the beginning of this season, and just to have her come out as a walker, it is heartbreaking. Like, it is, because everybody but like Shane, I think, was hoping that they'd find her, and they don't. And when they do find her, she's a zombie. So it's one of those things, they struggled this much just for her to come out as a zombie. Now, that's the thing, despite the fact that this does have that one iconic scene, the rest of the episode isn't slacking, not by any stretch of the imagination, because you do have the whole revelation. Glenn reveals to the group that, oh, there's actually walkers in the barn, and there's the chaos, the arguments that ensues from there. I mean, you have Daryl and Shane literally about to beat each other up because of it, which is, I mean, could Daryl take on Shane? Probably. I don't know. If it was like Season 11, Daryl, oh, most definitely, he could probably give Shane a run for his money, but like Season 2, I mean, he just got his ass beat about a week ago by Shane, because the time between Season 1 and Season 2 is about a week, give or take. And Season 1, he did get his ass beat. Tell it to the Frogs, I believe. But, just that whole thing, that whole storyline with the way Sophia ends, it's kind of tragic, because, again, you have this little girl, we've been searching for her for this whole time, and she's dead. And actually, fun fact, originally, she wasn't gonna die. She was gonna come out from the barn, but she was gonna be alive. and I'm really happy they didn't go with that ending because it just wouldn't have made sense. Because like, why is she in the barn alive? Why is she, wouldn't she have just gone to the farmhouse that's right there? Wouldn't she have seen her people who's like right there? Also, Glenn goes into a barn at one point by himself. So like, wouldn't he have seen Sophia? Like, I'm really happy they didn't go with that ending. They went with the zombie Sophia ending and made it to one of the most devastating endings to an episode in the series. Next up, Season 3, Episode 12, Clear, Morgan's triumphant, I guess, return. And I say triumphant question mark because he's all kinds of fucked up at this point. Like, yeah. So you have Rick, Michonne, and Carl, and they're going back to King County to basically get supplies for a possible incoming attack by the governor and his people. And they're going to King County because Rick thought, hey, the police station should still have some guns in there, and I know a bunch of places that have guns. Let's go there, get supplies, get guns, medicine, food, whatever we need for this upcoming battle. And then they go into King County, and it's completely fucked. Essentially, it is completely fucked. You have these traps, these cages with rats in them that are used to lure walkers, and they're like, what the fuck is this shit? And then you have a sniper on the roof trying to kill them, and it turns out to be Morgan. And Morgan is on clear mode. And for those who don't know, who don't watch the series, what is clear mode? It's basically, he's gone crazy. Essentially, he's gone crazy after the death of his son. He's completely lost touch with reality. I'm talking about seeing dead people's faces, which a lot of people at the time thought that could have been a clue to the Whispers, but a retroactive clue to the Whispers. Long story short, at the time the episode aired, the Whispers weren't even introduced in the comics, and then a lot of people thought, oh, that line inspired the Whispers. It's a whole thing. But, I mean, him just going crazy. And believably. That's the thing. It's believably crazy, and we believe why he goes crazy, why he's gone mad. But then also him having that moment of clarity and realizing, oh shit, this is Rick. This is the guy who said he was going to call me on the walkie-talkie every morning. Where the fuck were you? Because I was there every morning by the walkie-talkie, and you were never there. And essentially, to a certain degree, blaming Rick for the death of his son. It just shows what the apocalypse can do to a person, what it can take away from a person. And then on the flip side, you have Michonne and Carl, who are trying to get a picture of Lori so that Carl can show Judith in the future how Lori looked. Because the thing is that Carl, more so than Michonne, don't trust each other. And earlier on in the episode, he's like, why do we have to bring her along? And Rick's like, oh, because she could be useful. And also, low-key, I don't need her to try to kill Merle, who's also at the prison right now. Because that's already happened like 5 times over. But this episode shows them starting to bond and just having the seeds of that relationship. It's really nice. Also, you do have the seeds of Michonne and Rick's relationship. I know they end up as a couple. I mean, they have a whole goddamn show coming out about Michonne trying to save Rick. But, I mean, at this point, it's just them seeing each other for people and as possible just allies. And again, a lot of stuff here to unpack, and it's just really, really good because of that. Next up, number 6, here's Negan. If you want to talk about an episode that arguably changed the viewer's perspective of a single character the most, here's Negan. By far, here's Negan. Before this episode aired, there were still people who disliked Negan a lot. A lot has to do with the fact that he killed Glenn. Fair enough. But a lot of it just has to do with the fact that I don't want to say that Negan's not likable as a character, but he has done actions that aren't likable as a character. And it doesn't matter how charismatic Negan is. A lot of people just will never forgive him for some of those actions. That being said, especially with this episode, we can understand why he did the actions he did. And, I mean, Here's Negan was one of the comic book spin-offs. It was a one-shot portraying the early life of Negan in the apocalypse. And they practically adapted that whole one-shot into this. I mean, no, of course they changed some stuff, but they practically adapted it to fit their needs. And I honestly think that what they did in Here's Negan was so much better than what they did in that little one-shot. And honestly, the icing on the cake for this is the fact that Lucille, Negan's wife, is portrayed by Hilary Burton, which is his actual wife in real life. Also, you have Laura, who comes back, who got maybe one of the worst deaths in The Walking Dead's history. Here's the thing, a lot of people didn't even realize that Laura died until it was said on Talking Dead, oh no, she died. Everybody's like, really? That's what killed her? The fuck? So to see her back again, a lot of people really loved that. And originally it was going to be Dwight, but that was during COVID, and they couldn't do that, have that work out with us and Emilio. So they just got Laura. And honestly, it works out. And Laura is the reason why Negan has Lucille the Bat. And that's a nice backstory for it. But honestly, yeah, if you're able to turn arguably one of the most hated characters into even tolerable for a lot of people, I think that in and of itself is an accomplishment. And just for those who are fans of Negan, seeing his backstory, seeing something we've been wanting to see for so long, was just great. And what honestly helps is the fact that these episodes were the extra 6 episodes that were made during COVID, during the lockdown. And this episode by far was the most successful and best one out of the bunch. I mean, Diverged fucking sucked. A lot of people like One More. I would argue that that's actually the worst episode of The Walking Dead, but that's a whole different explanation, right? The Reaper episode where Maggie's being hunted down, that a lot of people like that one, but it wasn't anything to write home about. But this one, here's Negan. Everybody loves this episode, no matter what. Everybody loves this episode, and I think it really got helped with the fact that it was released during COVID. Next up, what comes after? Rick's final episode. I mean, if you want to send off the main character, what better way to do it with this episode? Like, this episode, basically, he couldn't arguably have gotten a better send-off. There is one note that a lot of people say this should have been changed to something else, which I'll get to in a second, but, like, at the end of the day, this was just a hell of a send-off. I mean, for starters, you get the return of Shane, granted in hallucination form, but you get the return of Shane. And he was sporting his Punisher haircut, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, this would have been around the time that he was doing Punisher. So he was sporting his Punisher haircut, which a lot of people are like, oh, okay. I mean, he didn't have that haircut on the show, but fuck it. You know, actors have to do different roles sometimes. Even in hallucination, the conversation that he has with Rick, Shane, saying him, how's my daughter? Like, everybody's like, oh, you fucking asshole. Like, even in hallucination, you're an asshole. I mean, and just seeing Jon Bernthal, who I think is one of the more successful actors to come out of The Walking Dead, aside from, like, Steven Yeun, who was literally nominated for an Oscar for Minari, Jon Bernthal arguably is probably the second most successful actor to come out of The Walking Dead. And just having him, I mean, him in general is just a great actor, and just having him have that one last scene with Rick, great. Next up, I mean, Scott Wilson, Herschel. This was one of the last roles he did before he died. Second to last, if I'm not mistaken, he did a episode of AO, something like that, right beforehand too, where he was also like a series regular. And then that conversation just hits very hard. And I mean, I think it hits harder because of the fact that he had just died a few months prior, and Herschel is just a beloved character. Scott Wilson was a beloved actor. And him just telling Rick, like, hey, you've done what you can. It's your time to go, essentially, was just great. And then the last one, which a lot of people are like, really? Is the conversation he has with Sasha. And here's the thing. That conversation in and of itself is good. And I do like the conversation he has with Sasha. But I'm also going to agree with everybody else saying that Sasha shouldn't have been the character that he had that conversation with. Lori, Carl, or Glenn are honestly the 3 characters that everybody says that conversation should have been with. And just like everybody else, I agree. It should have been with Lori, Carl, or Glenn. I honestly think it should have been Carl, to be honest. I'm pretty sure ideally they would have gone with Glenn, but personally I would have gone with Carl. Carl. Yeah, Rick says it's Carl. But yeah, I would have gone with Carl personally, but I think a lot of people would have gone with Glenn because, again, Glenn was a beloved character. And Lori's the ex-wife, or wife, I guess. Were they ever technically separated because of the apocalypse? I mean, either way, I think Lori would have also made sense regardless. Again, that conversation I like what it was discussing. But just like everybody else, I think it would have been more effective and better had it not been with Sasha, because they barely even spoke in the series to each other to begin with. But but regardless, just that send-off between Rick and the rest of the group, Daryl literally sniper shooting arrows into walkers from like who the fuck knows how long that distance is. The rest of the group trying to go up and save Rick. And he's like, no, I'm gonna die I'm gonna die on my own terms. Bomb, the bridge explosion, and everybody thinks he's dead. Like, I mean, yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, you can't get a better send off for a character. And I mean, I know he doesn't die. I mean, again, we have a spin off coming out with him soon. But still, I mean, it is like just a great send off of the character at the end. And also, Judith coming out and saving Magnus Group at the very end. Honestly, that's a pretty nice, I don't, twist ending, I guess? No? Or, I mean, it's not really an end credit scene, but like, very nice bow on the ending, I guess, so to speak. But yeah. No Way Out, Season 6, Episode 9, aka The Battle for Alexandria. Essentially, that's what I call it. I'm not sure if anybody else calls it that, but it's The Battle for Alexandria. That's, for those who don't know, at this point, Alexandria has been swarmed by walkers thanks to the wolves and thanks to the quarry run being, put out of commission because of what happened in JSS and everything before that. So right now we have walkers who are inside Alexandria. They've invaded the shit out of it. And the survivors need to get the fuck out. Essentially, they need to get the fuck out. For me, the reason I love this episode so much honestly has to do with the ending. And that is because at this point, Rick, for the past season, since he got there, halfway through season 5, he's been trying to get these people like, no, you guys need to become survivors. You guys don't know what's out there. You guys need to learn how to kill walkers. You guys need to do this. You guys need to do that. You guys need to learn how to survive. And this is the culmination of him doing all that. Him accepting the group at Alexandria for who they are, Alexandria accepting Rick and his group for who they are, with them working together to essentially exterminate the walkers who are here. And part of it does have to do with the fact that Carl gets his eye blown off thanks to Ron. So there's that too. Yeah, you have the Anderson family massacre, as it's been commonly known as at this point. Yeah, the Anderson family just gets wiped. Starting off with Sam, who doesn't know how to shut the fuck up during a herd. I don't know why the hell. That's the one thing. I don't know why the hell they let him continue being the herd. He should have gone off with Gabriel and shut the fuck up in the makeshift church they have at Alexandria at the time. But for whatever reason, he wanted to be brave. They let him be brave, and look what that caused. But yeah, the Battle of Alexandria, the combination of Rick saying, hey, you people need to be strong, be stronger, this is how you become stronger, and you go from there. We are at the top 3, and with number 3 we have No Sanctuary, the Season 5 premiere, aka the battle at Terminus, the downfall of Terminus essentially. And if I'm not mistaken, it is the highest viewed episode of the entire series. Yeah, this is a popular episode, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. The reason I like this is because big action, straight up big action, and sometimes that's all you need, big action. I mean, I know it seems pretty simplistic, but that's what it comes down to. Big action. I feel part of it also has to do with the fact that we haven't seen a battle of this scope yet in the series. Now, what happened in Too Far Gone is arguable, but the thing with Too Far Gone is that was only half of the episode, whereas this is the whole episode, essentially. Now, you do have some stuff with Tyrese, where he's in this cabin with Martin, who's one of the Terminus people they have kidnapped, him and Carol kidnapped. So you do have that drama right there on the sidelines, but the bulk of it is this battle at Terminus, them trying to get out of Terminus, and trying to kill as many termites as they can, as many of the cannibals as they can, whether it be through zombies or them getting shot. And honestly, yeah, big action fun. At number 2, we have Beside the Dying Fire, Season 2, Episode 13. So I'm not gonna lie, similar to No Way Out, big action. Similar to No Sanctuary, big action. That's the reason I like this episode so much, big action. But the thing with this big action is the fact that it actually has stakes. Similar to No Way Out, similar to No Sanctuary, the action in this episode actually has stakes. That's the fact that they're losing the farm. You're losing the farm, essentially, in this episode. And there's nothing that can be done about it. So you literally have every single survivor, I think for the first time in general, all of these survivors finally working together to take out a common enemy, of course in this case the zombies. And then some people die, Jimmy, Patricia, and some people don't. some people, there were characters who I thought were gonna die. I remember I thought Beth was gonna die in this episode and Carol was gonna die in this episode, and no, they ended up surviving, and Carol became one of the biggest characters in the entire franchise at the end. Carol had a lot of close calls in the series. She also was meant to die in Killer Within, but T-Talk took her place. But besides the point. But in general, like, also, can we just talk about Herschel's infinite shotgun ammunition? And then the one time he actually needs to reload, he almost gets bit in the process, if not for Rick saving him last minute. So there's that too. But, like, I think the other thing with this is that at this point in the series, we haven't seen a Walker herd that large. Aside from the one in the very first episode, at the end with Atlanta, we haven't really seen a Walker herd this large that the group wasn't able to run away from. They had to battle this. Okay, like the walkers that invaded the Atlanta camp, that was maybe only about 30, 40 zombies. This is about a good 100, 200, maybe 300 zombies. I don't know, but this was a huge amount of zombies. And the thing is that this was part of this herd was the herd that we saw in the season 2 premiere that went through the highway. And again, this is the largest amount of zombies that the group has had to battle at this point, and the fact that the vast majority of them were able to survive was just great. You do have Andrea, who got separated, and eventually she found Michonne, which was I mean, the introduction to Michonne was, you have this mysterious figure who just cuts off this one zombie. She has 2 chained walkers right next to her. And like, you're like, who the fuck is this? And that was before Denai Guerrera was even cast for the role. There was just a lot going on, and even the characters not knowing, like, are we sure Andrew's alive or dead? And Rick's like, who cares? She's not there. She's either dead or she left. Get over it. And then at the very end, this isn't democracy. This is basically a dictatorship. Great stuff. And for me, my favorite episode of The Walking Dead, Season 1, Episode 1, the series premiere, Days Gone By. And I'm just going to put it straight. You do not have the rest of this series without this episode. No matter how great No Sanctuary is, no matter how great Beside the Dying Fire is, no matter how great any of these other episodes are, none of these episodes happen without this episode. Simply put, and even then, the world building that's set up in this episode alone is, I mean, it's just, there's a reason why so many people were interested, were sucked into the series. Because, I mean, we've seen zombie stories in the past with, the Romero stuff. Zombieland would have come out maybe the year prior, if I'm not mistaken. 28 Days Later, the remake, as well, came out like a few years before that. So we've seen zombie movies beforehand, but this is a zombie series. And the world they introduced in this show, with this episode, it was very intriguing. I mean, again, like I said beforehand, the first zombie we see, and the first zombie that's killed is a girl. It's a little girl, so, and it was a character that was so iconic that they even gave her a name, Summer. And even then, the actress came back as another Walker in the 100th episode in season 8. I forget which episode that is, but they brought her back just for that cameo as well. I mean, the whole scope of the series doesn't exist, because if this episode would have failed, again, nothing else in the series matters. And at the end, I mean, I know I was just talking about a big Walker herd, but hey, I don't think we see a Walker herd of this magnitude until literally the finale of the series at the Commonwealth, where you have thousands upon thousands of walkers in Atlanta, and you have Rick, who needs to go inside the tank to survive, and then at the very end, hey dumbass, you alive in there with Glenn? I mean, perfect introduction to him. It's a perfect introduction to the series as a whole. Of course, you got Morgan in here, you got Lori in here, you got Shane in here, Carl, all those elements, a lot of elements that just go on until the end of the series, essentially. And again, you don't have the rest of this series without this episode, and I mean, for me, because of that, it's my favorite episode of the entire series, and arguably the best episode of the entire series. Again, you do not have the rest of the series without this episode. You don't have the rest of this franchise, especially the television aspects of it, without the series. Because without this, you don't have Fear the Walking Dead, you don't have World Beyond, you don't have Tales, you don't have Daryl series, you don't have Dead City, you don't have The Ones Who Live. None of that exists without this episode, essentially. So yeah, and I know some people will say, oh, maybe some of those would have been better had they not happened. But honestly, I'd say no, not to that. I like how the series has been, and that's how it is.
Now, I do want to add one more thing here because honestly, this list could have easily been like a top 40 because of all the episodes I was considering putting in, taking out, etc., etc., etc. So I kind of just want to give a shout out, honorable mentions to the other episodes I had considered, and quite literally, this is another 20 episodes. So you could think of this as numbers 21 and 40. I'm gonna say them in the episode order that they appear in, so it's not like they're in so just because I say this one first doesn't mean I like as 21 and then 22, 23. No, I'm just saying this as in the order that they came out. So the next ones are Guts, Nebraska, Better Angels, This Sorrowful Life, First Time Again, JSS, Here's Not Here, Always Accountable, Bury Me Here, The Damned, A New Beginning, The Calm Before, Lines We Cross, Squeeze, A Certain Doom, On the Inside, Warlords, The Rotten Core, Variant, and Family. So those are the honorable mentions very fast. I just wanted to mention them very fast because it felt wrong not to mention them at all. So here you go. On to the rest of the video. The ending.
And yeah, that's the list. What are your thoughts? What are your top 20 or top 10 or top 5 or top 3 or whatever top? What are your thoughts? Comment all that down below. Let me know. Tell me what you think of this list. I mean, I'll be honest. Part of the reason I wanted to do top 20 is because I did try to do a top 10. I'm not gonna lie, but I only had representation from like half of the series, from like 4 or 5 seasons. I'm like, okay, this seems kind of bullshit. There's no way. I wanted to try to get at least one episode from every season. So that's what we had extended to top 20. But like even then, I'm so proud of how this list turned out. And yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna be doing this every single week in October, every Thursday, where I'm gonna be doing some kind of list based on horror. And we'll see what happens next week. But yeah, that's basically it for now. Give me your thoughts down below. Let me know. And that's basically it for now. This is Daniel Mart signing off.